All right, so we're measuring the blades on these. I've set this on 4.5. The reason I like to check this after I get all the tires, you know, evenly pressured, I like to check where the blade's at, because not every time does the mower say 4.5 and the blade tip be at 4.5. So we're gonna see where it's at. So we've got these set on 4.5. They're sitting at, believe it or not, 3 5/8. See the pin right here is at 4.5. So I'm gonna have to raise the deck on up on that. That's odd that it's sitting that low. Let me measure that again just to make sure my eyes, yeah. That's 3 5/8, which is a little above a 1/2 inch. I don't know. That's wild. Let's try 4 3/4 and see where we're sitting at. Really, that ain't off that much. So that's sitting right at 4 when the blade is set at 4 3/4. So where the blade is set at on this in comparison to where it's supposed to be at is quite a bit off. So I'm gonna raise it up one more because I'd like to cut at least 4 1/4. That's wild. So we'll do it 5. See what we get. All right, so that blade tip is at 4 1/4. Had to set that on 5 to get that blade to be at 4 1/4. That's wild. All right, shut that off. All right, so I set this on 4 1/4. Let's see where it's at. And I set a piece of dirt here. You can see it in the last part of the video, just to see where we're at. All right, so this blade is right at 4 1/4. So these two blades are setting identical. The one thing that I see is this deck is way, way more accurate, and you're gonna be able to go up a lot higher on the cut with this deck than you are that one, because this is set at 4 1/4, which is exactly what the blade tip is setting at. So I don't know how Bobcat judges their blade tip, but you can bring this up to 5 1/2. So even though that says 5 1/2, I'm gonna guess that you can only get your blade, because I only got one more notch on that before it's up. So you can probably only cut at 4 1/2. So something's off with how that dial system is compared to where the blade is. I don't know if they measure something different, but I think all these manufacturers need to measure from the bottom of their blade. That way when, you know, someone goes on a piece of grass and they want to cut it at 4 1/4, they can just slap it on 4 1/4 and know that's what they're cutting at. So let's take these and cut and see how they do, and we'll do the V-ride too. All right, so this is the only one that has new blades on it. All of these are just standard lift blades. I'm running the exact blade that comes on these from the factory. I've not put high lifts on any of these blades. They make a high lift for every one of these that will give you a lot more vacuum and a lot more pronounced stripe, so keep that in mind. I've set this on 4 1/4, and it's setting at about 4. So we're gonna raise this up one more notch. That way we can get it perfectly even. What are you doing, little man?
I want to be in the video.
All right, help me. Let me get that, push that pin in there for me, push it all the way in.
Sure.
Is it all the way in? Turn it over so it don't come out. All right, now let's measure that blade. See where it's at. We want to get these as close as possible. Some of them may be like a 32nd or an 1/8 off, but we try to keep it as fair as it can be. So that's sitting right at 4 1/4. So this deck's about 1/4 inch off from what it says. This mower here and the Bobcat have about a 90 80 to 100 hours on them. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at them and see. But maybe the tire wear on these mowers is what's doing that. So I'm guessing that over time maybe the tire has lost a little bit of circumference, but I don't think that one's lost an inch of circumference on it. That's nuts how that one is. But anyway, let's take these and cut and see what we get. All right, so here's your Scag V-Ride. We'll get down and look at this. I mean, it's about as smooth as you're gonna get. There is very, very few scragglers in there. Let's see. So you can see down through there, it's a smooth, smooth cut. Smooth, smooth cut. It missed a little fluff there, but that's probably where a tire was holding it down. So you can see that way, and I'll turn you the other way. You know, you've got a little bit of fluff that was left on this, but not a whole lot. Now let's go over here and look at the hustlers. This is a really smooth cut too. Get down low so you guys can see. And hopefully you guys can see on that discharge, there's a little bit of leftover right here. You can see that there's a little bit through there. But we'll look this way. There is a divot right here in my yard. I don't know if you can see it or yet, not in the video. And then here is the, and I'll go back over them walking pretty quick so you guys can see. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, that Bobcat laid down a pretty nasty stripe. Pretty nasty stripe. It, and I don't see really any scragglers out of it. We're gonna take these and do a 2-week cut. This was off of a 1-week cut. We're going to take these and put them in some real thick, so we'll really be able to see then. But, I mean, so far, this is, I'm going to go back over them quickly and just look at them eyeball-wise. Hustler, X-Ride, and then the Scag. I would say, as far as the stripe, that the Bobcat for the stripe, don't you think so too? That thing laid a nasty stripe. It didn't have as much discharge, but I don't see any clumps on it. I don't see any clumped up things. I don't really see any clumps on any of them. But we'll see in this 2-week cut what we get. But I hope you can tell in video. But I'm standing the same way at the same angle. But I'm almost sure that the Bobcat laid the hardest stripe down that. What do you think, Wills?
I think it done great.
Yeah, it did do a good job, didn't it?
I think the Bobcat was the best one at most.
You think so?
Yeah.
I'll let you guys be a judge. We're going to go up here and we're going to do a 2-week cut. This, like I said, was a 1-week cut. And so we're going to go do a 2-week cut on a random direction. And we're going to see how it does on a random direction on these. All right, so you are not going to find worse. This is the best grass, but it is so thick through here. This is really going to tell which one of these mowers has the best cut and discharge. So if you look over here, that's what we were just cutting in, which is like a 1-week cut. And this is a 2-week to 2.5-week cut, and it's extremely thick and lush. It's literally about 3 inches to the top of the blade tips over the blade where we're cutting at. So these mowers are really gonna have to work. And what I want you to remember is this is 40 horse, 38.5, and then 34.5. So it's kind of in order on horsepower, and we're gonna see how they do against each other. that little bitty incline set that thing off to where it wanted to slide. Good. Definitely felt way more stable on this machine, and I'm guessing that it's the tires between the two. Those are not as cleated looking as these are, and I know without a doubt this tire works better on a hill than that one does, just by the feel of those two mowers. I think it's the tire, because they have the same exact hydrostatic ZT 5400 transmission. All right, so here's the Hustler X-Ride, and I can see some of these. You can see a couple of blades laying on top of there in this cut. See them right there? See, there's some here, like that. I mean, it's nothing crazy, nothing you would have to double cut, but there is a few of them in there. You can see the stripe going this way. Let's go over here to the Bobcat. And this stuff is very lush and thick. I mean, it's super lush and thick. So you can see through there. And I don't think the ones that are sticking up in the middle are ones that are from the deck missing. I think that's just where I didn't get my... I've not ran these mowers perfectly, so we're going to look in the actual cut and see. So when it hit a bump, it missed, but for the most part, pretty good cut. I mean, very, very smooth. And like I said, these couple that are sticking up here, the mower just didn't go over that area. I just didn't get my... I'm not as used to running that Bobcat as I am the Hustler, but I would say that that cut is, you know, about as good as you're going to get on there. I don't see any major buildup on it. I don't see anything, and it's pretty smooth. Like I said, there's a few spots in it, but I think it's from every time it would hit a bump. This is extremely rough terrain, and it's very thick. Look at that frog. Oh my goodness, I nicked him. Ugh. Sorry, buddy. He's hiding in that tall grass. All right, so I would say, honestly, the Scag has the smoothest cut out of those mowers. The Scag on this cut here, it does have more on top. You can see quite a bit on top, you know, this through there. But as far as it shaving it smoothly, I think that the Scag probably shaved it the smoothest out of those. And like I said, the discharge on your third and fourth is always your worst. So you can see right here on the third that there is, you know, quite a bit that's laying on top. See that there? I think it shaved it the smoothest. Like I said, I when I'm looking at it and looking at the blades, and I go across the three of them, I think it probably has the most vacuum as far as how it's pulling the grass up. and made the cut the smoothest, I think. It really, yeah, it definitely made the smoothest cut. And then I would say the hyperdrive is second, of how smooth it made the cut. Or I mean the X-Ride. I'm so used to saying hyperdrive. And then I would say the Bobcat is third. The Bobcat lays probably one of the, I mean, I don't know, it stripes really well. But I think in the 2-week cut that it was Scag, that V-Ride XL, Hustler, and then Bobcat on the 2-week. We'll do some more and see. All right, so I've checked all the tires and they've got 12 PSI exactly in both sides of each tire on each unit. Now, when I checked the Scag, it only had about 5 PSI in the left and it had 12 in the right. So, you know, I don't know, it didn't seem to affect the cut that much, but it could make the deck a little bit different. But anyway, like I said, you've seen the cut test, but we're gonna do this downhill stability test and see how they do. Don't let the parking brake off that lever right there. All right, so I don't know if you could see in that video, but as far as the stopping test, they're all very, very close. The Hustler was able to turn easier than both of the other ones, but the Bobcat and the Scag did a little bit better on the backing up test of it. As soon as I tried to turn with the Bobcat and the Scag, you'll notice that they wanted to take off going, like almost like they started to slide and then they couldn't recompose themselves. So I had to just turn and go on down the bottom of the hill and come back up. Now on the up test, the stand on felt way more stable as far as the front end not wanting to come up, which is weird. I figured that it would want to rear up much more than the other two. But the as far as downhill, I couldn't believe that the Bobcat with those rounded tires wanted to back up. But then as soon as I wanted to turn, so I'm gonna do a leg cut, like a morning cut with these three, just to see how each of them do when it's got dew all over the grass, plus on a 2-week cut. So this is gonna be way harder than anything that you would normally do. All right, so here's the Scag cut. You can see some on the upper part that didn't get chopped up, but this is very thick, lush grass. I want you to look at this. Look at how thick that stuff is. Like I said, this is over a 2-week cut, and they're having to process a whole lot at one time. So over on the third cut, I only did 3 passes, but on the second and third, there's some on there, but it's not bad at all. But I want you to look at the Bobcat. There's a whole lot more on the Bobcat. I mean, there's much bigger clippings that didn't get clipped up. See here, this. And down this whole row is a massive bunch that is clotted up. You see all that on there? Hopefully you can tell that. See that right there? All down through there. And then we'll go over to the Hustler. The Hustler and the Scag are probably identical in the cut. Yesterday when I was doing the cut over here, when I got back up there, the Scag did have like 3 to 5 psi in one tire and 12 in the other, so I ended up airing them back up. So that might be why it shaved it so much smoother with the Hustler then. But you can see here on the Hustler, let's get down by it. So there's, you know, a little bit on there. Like here's a little bit right here and there, but it's not tremendously bad. Let me go slow and pan so you guys can kind of see. You can see just a little bit on there, but then let me run over here to the Scag and show you real quick. You can see just a little bit on it. The Scag and the Hustler are extremely close on that cut. I don't see any real long blades like I do in the Bobcat. Now I will say, and just so you guys know, this Bobcat, the deck on it has the worst blades out of both of these by a long shot. Like I said, I cleaned them up really well, but it also has this blade that is got the curve in it with probably just a standard lift. But like I said, I sharpened them extremely well, as you can see. But also some of the brackets in here are bent in this a little bit. And that's one of the things that I wonder about the Bobcat. If you guys had these Bobcat decks, how easy is those inner baffles to bend? But on this wet dewy cut, the Bobcat did the worst out of the three by a long shot. And it's very easy to tell on the discharge right here. You can see, I mean, there's massive pieces. Look at this. See through here? Look at this right here. That's just rubbing across the top. And I'll go over here and do the same thing in the Hustler's third one. Look at this. So there's just little bitty clippings in it. And I've got to scoop down deep to get them. There's none down through there like it is on the Bobcat. But the Scag and the Hustler are extremely close. I do see at the front of the Scag that it pushed a bunch of its clippings up here though, like where it was cutting. You can see it shot a bunch of these up at the very front of it. So it packed all that up here at the front. Look at that. That's just laying right at the front of the deck where I stopped. And I don't see that on either of these two. See there? There's nothing in front of that. So if you was packing all that around, I mean, it's chopped up, it's minced up real fine, but I don't know why it picked all that up and brought it with it. But you can see how much more went up on the lip of the Scag deck too. And that's just from this, cutting this morning. But see all that right there at the front of the deck? It rolled back a little bit before I put the parking brake on, but it just brought all that with it. So I guess if you turned, it would mulch it up again. But I would say that, I don't know, it's a hard decision between the Scag and the Hustler. And, when I've done all these videos, the Scag and the Hustler are neck and neck, cut for cut. And I truly believe that those are two of the best cutting decks in the industry as far as like all round cut. Like they're consistent no matter what you're doing. I've had 2 of these Hustlers and I've had multiple Scag units out, but I will say that I truly enjoy this Bobcat mower. This thing is so fast and it's comfortable. Its ergonomics are extremely nice, and I think it's built well. Now, like I said, I don't know. I've not owned one of these, but I think that it's built really well as far as how it works. But you can cut at a very fast pace with this, and dry cut, it lays down a nasty stripe. I do like this mower a lot.